I polled the Wendell fishing community with this question: do you carry a first aid kit on your fishing kayak? At 1,100 votes, with 34% of you saying that you do and 66% of you saying you don't. This video's for you. So I did some research to try to figure out what are the top 3 fishing injuries, and this is what I found. Number 1 is going to be minor tissue trauma, getting hooks through your fingers, wherever else you might get it. You had slips and falls at number 2, and number 3 was hypothermia. So this DIY kit is going to cover all 3 of those and more, so let's go ahead and hop in. The first thing that I do is I put some silica gel. First thing, throw it in my bag because this stuff's kind of an absorber of moisture, and I have these left over. I bought a big bag of it because I put these in all of my lure boxes when I have winter storage in case there's any moisture in there. I don't want them rusting. So it's gonna be really good. I throw a couple of these at the bottom and then I start putting the rest of my first aid kit items in. Let's go ahead and start with those. All right, so the first thing I put in is some latex-free vinyl gloves. The reason you want to use the latex-free is because some people are allergic to the protein found in latex rubber, and so the nitrile gloves don't do that. So go ahead and throw those in. Also, I put a little small bottle of sunscreen in case you forgot it or you're out in the water and you start feeling yourself burning and you have 4 or 5 hours to go left in the day. So I can't find my little bottle. I know it's around here somewhere, but I also throw that in my first aid kit. Next, I have some Antiseptic Prep pads. These are going to be used prior to applying first aid to decrease on any infections. Next, what I like to bring is NSAIDs with kind of naproxen sodium. These are great for anti-inflammatory, pain relievers, fever reducers. So I take a few pills out of here, throw it in a plastic baggie, put it in my first aid kit. Also have a couple Tylenols with me, great for colds and toothaches and kind of moderate pain. So throw that in there. All right, next thing I like to bring is the Dramamine. So guys, maybe you just forgot to take your motion sickness pills. So it's always great to have a little backup in your first aid kit in case you start getting woozy. But keep in mind, Dramamine, I know they make non-drowsy versions, but the original version it's antihistamine, so it's going to make you drowsy out in the water. So just keep that in mind when you take this. Next, I got some triple antibiotic ointment, guys. This is going to work really well with infection, help decrease on that, but also it's going to help the wound heal faster. So throw that in. Next, we got some butterfly skin closures, guys. These are some small, very narrow bandages that are going to help close up those small, shallow cuts. Next, we got this guy, which is a trauma wound dressing, also known as an Israeli bandage. So it might be a little overkill for a first aid kit, but maybe not. Now this will act as a primary dressing, also kind of a pressure applicator, and also comes with a closure device. Maybe exactly what your emergency or somebody else's emergency needs. Next, we got the classic Ace bandage, guys. It's going to be great for your severe sprains. You can even kind of utilize this to kind of keep a splint in place after a fracture or a bad sprain. Next, I have a pair of curved Hemostat forceps that lock. So you can kind of see that. Now I use these instead of tweezers, also great for kind of removing ticks or getting some dexterity on a hook that may be in your finger. All right, next we got an ABD Pad. These are essentially a dressing for your abdomen, and essentially it's gonna seal off the wound and kind of pull any moisture into the core, so it's gonna help cut down on your infection. Next is the oval eye pad, and God forbid you get a hook in your eye, but I know sometimes when I was like pulling a lure out, I had a split shot on it once and it came back and hit me in my tooth. It hurt for days. So I can only imagine if something would hit me in the eye. This you're gonna be able to put on your eye, cover it with a bit of tape, and keep it safe until you get some professional medical help. If you don't have a pair of wire cutters or something that can cut through a hook, I highly recommend it. You might wanna carry wire cutters. I know that I have a pair of Booms aluminum pliers here, and there's a cutter here that I know will cut through a hook because I've tried it before. So test that out, make sure that's working for you. This is great if you have a hook through your finger and the barb is through and through. You're gonna wanna be able to cut that hook and pull it out and kind of dress it up afterwards. But always a good idea to remove the hook. If you got a hook in your finger and you got a treble hook and there's multiple hooks on your lure, is removing that hook before you work on it. I've seen countless videos of guys removing one of the treble hooks only to catch another finger with the second treble hook. So keep that in mind. I also have with me a pair of trauma shears. These guys right here. Never know when you might need to be able to cut away some clothes or get to an injury. Also, if you have a SAM splint, there's some aluminum on the inside of that SAM splint. Or if you need to cut down that SAM splint to make a finger splint, those pair of scissors that you have with you might not do the trick. You're going to want a pair of trauma shears, and these aren't that expensive. So I carry one of these with me. Next, you got your cold pack. This is going to help relieve a little bit of the pain, reduce swelling and inflammation. Some people say, oh, you got to carry string with you if you like to use the string pull method on getting your hooks out. Well, I literally have hundreds of yards of fishing string on my kayak at all times, so I don't carry string with me, so I can just pull it cut it off of my braid or cut it off of my fluoro and utilize that. All right, next I got my Mylar blanket. This is going to be primarily used to retain body heat, especially if you flip your kayak, you're in cold water, and you're pretty far from loadout. You can put this around your core, maybe put a synthetic over top of it and retain a lot of that body heat that you probably would have lost. This could also be used as a tourniquet. If you don't have anything else to use a tourniquet, you can really tie this around. And the beauty of this, it's super shiny. So for some reason, you need to be spotted by having this around you on the outside. It will get the attention of other boaters. It will catch the glare. I don't know if you guys have ever been out in the water before, but anything remotely shiny, you're like, what in the world? What in the world is that? And eventually you'll get someone to come over and help you out. I also have a small little bottle of Superglue. My wife's using it right now, but it's known to close wounds fairly easily. So they have medical grade that's not going to irritate your skin as much, but I also carry a little tube of that with me. Next I have my Splint. You guys can't see it very well, but there is a thin piece of aluminum that kind of goes through all of this, kind of makes it malleable. And so this is why you're going to need your trauma scissors to be able to cut that down to size, especially if you want to make it smaller for a finger or whatever it is that you need it for. Also carry some Moleskin with me. This is going to be really great, especially if you're out paddling on a multi-day trip where your skin is not used to all that friction. You're going to really be glad that you brought some of this with you. Also bringing with me some breathable clear tape. This is really great for kind of securing your non-stick bandages, your iPads, your Splint, etc. Next I have a various assortment and sizes of kind of bandages, kind of band-aids. I actually carry one unicorn band-aid. In case any of my buddies don't carry a first aid kit and they ask me for one, that's the one they're getting. I carry a lighter in my first aid kit. If I ever need to sterilize something, I just run this over, whatever it is I need to sterilize for a couple seconds. It will kill all the bacteria. Next I have a clotting sponge. Essentially take this guy out, put it over your wound that's bleeding. It'll stop the bleeding. Put pressure on for about 30 seconds. Wrap it with an ACE bandage and don't take it off until you have professional medical care. All right, next I got some WoundSeal. Guys, just take this packet out, put it in the wound, let it sit for about 30 seconds, and it will create like a scab seal that will stop the bleeding. So I went back and forth how I wanted to store all of my first aid items and what I wanted to store it in. So I definitely want to be completely waterproof. Don't want any of this getting wet. And so I thought, wouldn't it be sweet if I put it in like a large Nalgene? The problem with the large Nalgene, once I got it and bought it, is that it just wasn't enough room, and I was running into the issue of if I needed something at the bottom, it was really hard because I shoved a bunch of stuff in there to get it out. So I am not going to use this, and so I just ran to Walmart and got a waterproof dry bag. This one's 10 liters, a little larger than you need, but it was on sale, so I grabbed it anyways. You probably 5 liters would do just fine. And there it is, guys. Everything that I talked about right here. It's not that big. Just throw it in your kayak and forget about it. But let me know. Keep the conversation going below. What is one thing that you would have put in your first aid kit that you didn't see in mine? And hey, guys, here's a video that the YouTube algorithm thinks you may love right there.